a video on these that I picked up in Lidl. So I wanted some mackerel fillets, and then I kind of noticed that the sardines were a lot cheaper. So, and I wanted to just do a little bit of a comparison, because I want to do like some kind of kedgeree, or something along those kind of lines. And I was kind of thinking, I always kind of want to see if we can do things as cheaply as possible, and then we can always you can scale up the recipe, so you can buy the cheapest ingredients and still get pretty much the same results as you would if you get more expensive ingredients. Because everyone's on a different budget, and I don't think that's, and you can still have nice food even if you're on a slightly tighter budget. So those are 82 pence, and those are 53 pence, and I think they're the same size. I'm sure I had a quick look. Oh yeah, so here we go. So you get slightly more. You get slightly more in the sardines, which are cheaper. So it's 125 grams, and then it's both 125 grams, and then drained weight is 90 grams for the sardines and 85 grams for the mackerel. So that means that the sardines are even better value. So let's just have a taste. I don't know why. I don't know why they're kind of cheaper. Plain tin. That's probably a reason. That's probably a reason why they're cheaper. Well, maybe people just don't. Maybe sardines have fallen out of favour with people. Maybe that's the reason why they're cheaper, and you can only get so much money for them. I don't know. There's a reason for everything, and I don't. And sometimes the reason is that you kind of think, right, okay. So the sardines have still got the skin on, whereas the mackerel hasn't. So that's why they're cheaper. But let's taste. Let's see. I'm not going to pull the skin off. They have been. Have they been? Have we got rid of the scales? Is that a scale? No. I've still got the scales on them. So, which I probably would have said on the container. Probably would have said on the container. Doesn't say. Contains bones from factory. Oh, there we go. There we go. So that's why they are cheaper, because they're not scaled. Let's play it out. Let's get a plate out. So, and they've got the bone going through them, so that's kind of like a reason. So we're going to have to, if we're going to use them, we're going to have to pull off the skin and the scales. So that kind of takes away me thinking that you were going to get more meat in those for the weight once it was drained. But obviously you're going to get the waste skin and scales. I would have just, if there wasn't scales, if they'd been descaled, I would have just eaten the skin, but I'm not eating scales. They're not very nice. I suppose if I was desperate, if I was on a life raft in the middle of the ocean, but otherwise I'm not going to eat scales. So, but it comes up kind of quite easy, like that. And then let's get out this as a comparison. Yeah, under a bit, I don't know, you can be put off buying cheaper things because you think necessarily they're not going to be just quite as good. That's the wrong thing to say. They're not necessarily going to be as good. But so I always kind of think we should always just have a go. It's alright. Mackerel's alright. So sardines. Just not as much flavour. They're a little bit more salty. So maybe just need to season those. See if there's a bit of salt. So that's probably the reason why they're cheaper as well. because I've cut right down on scaling them and less salt in them and cheaper packaging. That's alright. It's alright. So if you can't be bothered removing the skin and the scales, go for the mackerel. And if you want to save yourself some money but you'll have to remove the scales and a bit of skin, I'll go for the sardines. There we go. I was going to taste the oil. I think that's what I got the bit of bread out for. Because it's nice just to kind of dip a bit of bread in the oil from the fish. Just like a bit of a treat. So that's nice. But the mackerel's just slightly nicer. Just slightly nicer. Oh, just a little bit to add to the end of this sardine video. I was in Sainsbury's and they sold tins of sardines as well. A little bit more expensive. Can't remember what the other two cost. But this was about 60p. And I think the other one, the sardines from Lidl, were about 50 odd p. And then the mackerel was about 70 odd p. So this is just slightly more expensive, still cheaper than mackerel. Now, I want to know if the sardines in this tin come with the skin on and the and descaled either. Well, they look nicer to start off with, but have they been descaled? Let's find out. Nope, the scales are there. The scales are there. So, where's that scales? Oh, are they? Nothing? No, they're definitely scales. I can definitely see some scales in there. So, the reasons that sardines are in these tins are cheap is because they're not scaled, which you kind of really don't want to, but can't really taste it. Can't really taste them, but still, I wouldn't want those in a dish. I wouldn't want those in a dish. So, depending on how much work you want to do and what your budget is, you make your choices on those, I think.